Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths, and welcome to our Community Connections show, where we get to share listener questions and stories that you all have emailed into us. And we've got some great ones this week. Denise, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So this comes from someone who's listened to us forever and even goes back to the start of Psychic Teachers. So that's a long-time fan. So thank you very much for listening to Enlightened Empaths and also to Samantha's other podcast, Psychic Teachers. So here we go. So I've been super open and intuitive from childhood. I grew up in a very haunted house and as a young adult had some very crazy experiences with psychic dreams and visions. My dreams were so precise that every detail was right on. I have visually seen spirits and crazy things, especially growing up. My intuition is on point. I can read people and know things that are going on without having any way of knowing. It's actually a curse to some degrees because I know when coworkers, friends, or my children are being shady. So now that I've given you a little background, the question is, I can usually feel if there are spirits around, especially darker ones, but I'm not sure if I'm connecting without even meaning to. When I close my eyes, I see faces, lots and lots of faces, especially when I'm dozing off or waking up. You know, you just have the most random things in those moments, but not me. It's always faces, faces of people I've never met before. Do you think I'm sensing spirits? I just can't wrap my head around it. I'd love your thoughts on this. I've talked to several people over the years that happens. They'll see faces coming at them, floating towards them, just like heads and faces floating around as soon as they close their eyes. So could it be connecting with spirit? I think it could be. I think the fact that this person trusts their intuition is so spot on with it and has no doubt that they're highly intuitive. It's a great way to be in that liminal state for spirit to step in and get a little closer.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've gotten this question a lot through the years. And when I was writing my book on dreams, The Awake Dreamer, I actually researched this. And unfortunately, there is a scientific reason for this. As you're falling asleep, your brain is trying to filter through all of the experiences and events of the day. And so even though you might think you're seeing faces you've never seen before, science says it's the faces you've seen without being cognizant of it as you're walking through your office, the grocery store, or wherever you are out and about when you are seeing strangers. And it's a way of the brain just kind of filtering what's important enough to be stored and what needs to be let go of. But that's such a Debbie Downer answer, that, I mean, I think it could be spirit trying to connect with you, but that's what the research says it is. I don't know. What do you think?
What popped into my head is if you don't see many people and that happens, does that
Yeah.
discount the science behind it? If you live in a rural area or you work from home and don't interact with a lot of folks? The other part to this person's question, though, was that usually senses darker ones around, darker spirits, darker energies, and has had a lot of strong experiences throughout their lifetime. So I wonder if this is a random, but could they be people in spirit who are asking for help to cross over or to be connected to their loved ones here? Or if it just seems like there's a real strong propensity towards being a liaison for those in spirit.
Yeah, I definitely think that could be, something that I feel is very true is if you have a soul who's crossed over to the other side, I think there are levels to that crossing over. And some who are really attached to earthly ways might take a little longer to cross over, or some who have unfinished business. And so it's almost like they have one foot over there and one foot here. And I think sometimes those souls need the energy of a medium who kind of lives with one foot in both worlds to maybe donate, offer up some of their energy to give them that little oomph, that little push to go over to the other side. It's almost like a healing session. And so something that this listener could do is just visualize sending light to those faces, just surrounding those faces in light so that they have a little bit of extra energy to fully make the transition.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice.
Our next one says, I've been on a journey learning about the lesser known chakras, such as the soul star chakra and the earth star chakra. And I bet there are plenty of other people out there who don't know about all the other lesser known chakras. I think it'd be a great idea for an episode. I do too. I think my chakra guru go-to is Anodea Judith. But some little quick information on those two chakras. The soul star chakra, which is also known as the eighth chakra or the seat of the soul, it's located above the crown chakra. It's the gateway to higher consciousness, spiritual evolution, and connection with divine energies. The soul star chakra is linked with spiritual awareness, divine wisdom, and the higher self. It's seen as the link between the individual consciousness and the cosmos, facilitating connection to higher realms and spiritual guidance. And its color ranges from white or up to violet. So one thing I do when I'm opening up my chakras to do meditative or intuitive work, I always start at the root and I open all the way to the crown. And then I visualize the eighth chakra, the soul star chakra, about a foot above my head. And it's almost like a trap door. And I just picture opening it. And then that's when my light really beams out and connects me to the other side. There's a whole book that's been written called The Eighth Chakra, which is also a really good resource. And the Earth Star chakra, that's located below our feet. It's often considered as the grounding point of the chakra system because it connects your energy with the Earth's energy grid. So it enhances grounding, stability, and connecting with that solid energy of the Earth. And its color ranges from brown to black or reddish brown. And it helps anchor our spiritual experiences into the physical reality of the here and now. And just walking around barefoot is a great way to work with the earth star chakra and just really feeling your feet in the earth. Or if you can, go to a beach or even a creek and just put your feet into that muddy water or the sandy water. It's a great way to help clear that chakra.
And it also, the old adage, as above, so below. So you're connecting with something at the higher realms when you are going up to that star chakra, and then the lower worlds when you're going down to that earth star. And we've said this many times as well, that the more grounded you can get, the higher you can go. So it makes perfect sense to me that there would be a chakra that would align us more with that earth energy and that connection.
Think about that visual we always see of a person's aura, and it always goes a couple of feet above their head, a couple of feet around their body, and a couple of feet below their feet. And
Mhm.
that's what you can think of with the lower chakra. It's at the base of that aura, that auric egg, and then the soul star is at the very, very top. And then
And
the seven chakras are within the body.
And for many people who are sensitive to earth energy, and they may step onto a piece of property or into an area and feel a very strong connection to the land or to that place in town or that path in the park, it's just a really incredible physical connection. You have to wonder if something has activated that earth star chakra that aligns with your personal energy as well, that's a good place for you to be.
Ooh, that's a great point. And then we have the higher heart chakra, there's a spleen chakra, there's hand chakras. It can get a lot. But I'll tell you, we've done a lot of shows on my other podcast on chakras, and they are our least downloaded shows. So we stopped doing them because we thought, well, I guess people aren't interested.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Something to think about, but there is a plethora of information out there, and I agree. Anodea Judith is an amazing resource. I had heard years ago, because I love the core shamanic practices, is Alberto Vallaldo said that there's a chakra above us that when we leave this physical form, all of our memories, experiences, energies upload to that chakra. And then when we reincarnate, it all downloads into the new body that we choose to come onto the planet with. And that's why we can have past life recall, and we can have, similar physical things that we may have experienced in the past, or we may have a knowing of something that doesn't make any sense, is because we've downloaded our previous memories of from another incarnation.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what else? We have another chakra. So you know how the crown chakra is at the top of your head, kind of like where the fontanelle skull points meet when you're a baby?
Yes.
If you move a couple of inches behind that, that little soft spot where your hair kind of parts at the back of the top of your head. How's that for being specific?
Mm-hmm.
That is called the immortality chakra.
Oh.
Yeah, and you activate it by putting your tongue as far back as you can on the roof of your mouth. And there is some cool stuff about that. Like there are meditators who have sat in meditation for hours focusing on that chakra with their tongue in that position. And, they tend to live longer and have all sorts of cool stuff happen. So I don't know, but it's a really fun. I mean, I would love to do a show on it. I just, like I said, I don't know if listeners want a show on all that.
Well, I'm sure people will let us know if
Okay.
they'd like a little bigger, more of a deeper dive into it. Our next one says, my sister-in-law and I were as close as sisters. She was my daughter's favorite person. We got a phone call one night when we were in bed that she had suddenly passed at the hospital from a heart attack. I was devastated and didn't know what to do. I lay back down in bed and wondered why I didn't feel her passing. As soon as I thought that, my feet started to shake like I was cold, and the same feeling continued up my body. I felt like I was having a seizure. Then I opened my eyes and saw a bright light surrounded by a brilliant dark pink, a color that was so beautiful. I then felt this energy leave me and go to the light, and the light closed up and my body was still. I don't tell many people this story because it seems unbelievable, but I know it was my sister-in-law coming to say goodbye to me. I'll love her forever. That's beautiful, isn't it?
It is beautiful. It almost sounds like she was with her sister-in-law for a moment or two as her sister was passing. If you read, I think it's called Glimpses of Eternity by Raymond Moody. They're about shared death experiences, people who witness things like this as their loved one is dying. It sounds
Right.
a lot like that.
It really does. When I was reading this, and the color, the description of, a color so beautiful and the light, but that there was this brilliant, beautiful pink, dark pink. It feels very specific. It feels very unique. I didn't just think of a pink crayon when I heard that or read that.
No, and it feels full of love and
Hmm.
just union. That's beautiful. And it's beautiful, but it also makes me sad when she says, I don't tell many people this story because it seems unbelievable. I completely get that. There are still some stories I hold in my heart because it's like, oh, I don't know if anyone's gonna, if they're gonna roll their eyes at that, if they're gonna think, oh, what is she talking about now? I do wish and I do think a lot of this is getting more and more normalized. And it's, one of the reasons why I love doing shows like this, so that we all realize we're not alone and magic is out there and love is eternal.
Exactly. And more people are realizing that there's something more. There
Yeah.
is, it's not airy fairy woo woo or delusional or any of those things. It fascinates me, and this is another deep dive thing of how many people have in the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, we would have been in the pandemic. People were, more sequestered at home, having more time for prayer meditation than they may have had prior or after. How many people had a huge awakening during that time period that really opened this world up for them?
Well, that's a positive that came out of that difficult time. That's a good point. You know what I read today? More and
Right.
more people are giving up their cell phones and opting for flip phones
Right.
because they've noticed since the pandemic, I think they call it zombie phase, where they're just like so focused on being within and being alone and tuning everyone out and just staring and scrolling through their phone. And I thought, ugh, that's not good. Maybe I need a flip phone too. I don't know. All right, our next one says, last week I did Reiki for the first time in over a decade. I know I have some stagnant anger and resentment from my experiences this year, and I thought it might help me release or get in touch with it. At the end of the class, we pulled guidance cards, and mine had Kuan Yin. I didn't even clock that that was who the card was. They were English words that I connected to, and since I'd never heard of this particular guide, I did not register it. However, when I was leaving and went to listen to another spiritual podcast, her name randomly came up. I remembered the words on the card and finally looked her up. I thought it was a weird coincidence, but put it out of my mind. In the last week, her name has come up again a couple of more times, including in your show this week. This is after living over 30 years, never having heard about her once. I'm obviously being reached out to by this particular deity. I have no background with her, and my online research doesn't give me the information I would like, such as why she connects with people, what she prefers as an offering, how I can meet with her, and hopefully discover the messages she has for me. Please let me know what you think. P.S. The words on the card I connected with were compassion and grace. Wow. This is such a great example of how when we have a new guide on our team, this is often how they will introduce themselves. It'll just come up again and again and again. She's never heard of Kuan Yin, and then suddenly, poof, there she is. Kuan Yin is a mothering goddess. She's very, very similar to Mother Mary. She's known as the goddess of compassion and mercy. She's known for her qualities of kindness, compassion, unconditional love towards all beings. Kuan Yin is usually pictured wearing a white robe, and sometimes she's seen holding a vase, which is containing pure water, or you might see her holding a willow branch to symbolize healing, while the vase represents her container, her capacity for all the compassion she holds. She's also associated with the lotus flower, symbolizing purity and spiritual awakening. And she's often called upon to relieve suffering, and as I said, is seen as a mother to us all. So I believe she's coming to you to help you have compassion and grace with some anger and resentment that you alluded to in your email. She's probably helping you to mother yourself so that you can love yourself as you get back to Reiki, get back to yourself and your spiritual path, and release some of this righteous anger that you have so that you can heal it. She's a really great person to call upon for that. What do you think?
Oh, everything that you said, yes and yes. And the part that really popped out at me was that the no background. This isn't someone that our listener had heard about or read about or had, some connection. The randomness, the spontaneity of it, and then the repetition feels very, very, very important. And it's a beautiful energy. And it also validates, which I really love, that it has nothing to do with religious beliefs. It has to do with spiritual connection. That you don't have to, some people may say, oh, well, I'm a strict fill in the blank religious choice. Why would someone from another sect or religion come to me? Is because they want to help all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Kuan Yin's going to go, oh, you're not Buddhist. Nope, can't help you. Just like Mother Mary's going to be like, you haven't been to confession in 12 years. I can't answer your prayer. That's not the way it works.
No, but we all have access to all of, I mean, I call that level of the dream team the ascended masters, that they come in with so much more than we as humans on the planet may be able to fully understand.
Well, we have to compartmentalize and label and define everything. We as in humans, I mean, and I think I understand why we do that, but it's also very, very limiting.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a great example of how when we have a need in our life, a deep, important need, like releasing some stuff that's holding us back, our team hears that call and people will answer that call. And I think Kuan Yin is helping this listener And so in terms of an offering, I really think all they need is a thank you and a willingness to be open to the messages and signs and synchronicity she's going to continue to give you.
Yes. And it could also be worth doing a little Google to see, is there a traditional ceremony? Is there a traditional offering? Is there something that may align with your own spiritual practice that you already have that you could integrate into working with Kuan Yin?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it could be anything that speaks to your heart. I have a statue of Mother Mary next to a statue of Kuan Yin, and I feel like the two of them, they could be like two moms commiserating over like, oh, she hasn't listened to us again this week, but they can also support each other too, and they work together to help me on my path. So sometimes just having a visual reminder of them around is really helpful.
Yes. And that they're available to all of us.
Yes.
So our next one says, last year, my sweet mother suddenly passed away from a rare and incurable disease known as CJD. Last October, my sister and I participated in an annual Strides for CJD 5K. Our friend surprised my sister and I by gifting us homemade stained glass, purple ribbons to hang on our window. It had been several months since my sister and I received our stained glass ribbons from the event, yet we hadn't hung them up yet. I kept mine in its little gift bag on my nightstand for months and kept trying to remind myself that I just need to go to the store or order online a couple of little suction cups so I can hang the ribbon in the window in my room and give one to my sister for hers. But I kept forgetting or getting distracted and hadn't done it yet. One day, it was actually 2 days before my mom's birthday, I was in the bathroom when I accidentally knocked something off the counter onto the floor behind the toilet. As I was picking up the item I knocked over, I saw a little blue gift bag with a small suction cup in it. I was astonished as I picked it up and looked at it. I'd never seen that before. I, I don't own little blue gift bags that it came in, nor do I own any of the little suction cups, but I'd been meaning to get some. I was so excited, and I immediately showed my sister as we lived together. She hadn't put it there, and we were both shocked and surprised to see that it had seemingly come out of thin air. I immediately took the suction cup out and hung up my purple CJD ribbon in my room. I still keep the little blue gift bag on my nightstand today. Not even a month later, I was in the bathroom again when I found another little blue gift bag with another single suction cup in it in the same exact spot behind my toilet. My boyfriend was even over at the time and was just as shocked and surprised when I showed it to him. I gave it to my sister so she could hang up her ribbon. I still have my blue bag from my previous cup. This was a brand new bag with a new suction cup in it. Oh my goodness. That's amazing, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to say you can't make this shit up. Because really, what are the odds? And the bathroom. I know listeners might hear that and go, what's with this mom and bathrooms? But think about it. Bathrooms have nothing but water in them, and water is a conductor of energy. So I wonder if that helped facilitate this apport. Because in the world of spirit, when something just appears in your home, it's called an apport. And they are well documented. It does happen, but wow. I mean, that's a pretty amazing way for this to happen. And
And that it was in a little gift bag. I mean, I could see, oh, maybe someone had something and it got knocked off, but to have it in the same place, same gift bag that no one could claim, that,
I'd love to know if that fits their mom's personality.
mm,
Do
that's
you
a
know
good
what I
question.
mean? Like, I know a lot of people, well, they'll just give you something and it might be wrapped in tissue paper, or they might just hand it to you and say, oh, I was at the store and I remembered you said you needed this. And then there's those other, I call them the Martha Stewart people, where everything is so beautifully presented in this, identical blue gift bags. I just wonder if that fits their mom's personality, because that would be really cool. But what a wonderful hello from heaven. Because not only is that's such a mom thing to do, like, oh, I was at the store and I remembered you needed this, so I got it for you. But this is also her way of saying, I saw you. I saw you two running in that 5K for me, and I appreciate that so much. And I want you to hang this up just as a reminder that I'm always with you.
Oh, that even adds more beauty to it and more depth and more love.
It's beautiful. A mother's love never ends.
No, it
Okay, our
does
next
not.
one, no. Our next one says, I'm conflicted and have a question about karma. Samantha, my sister reminds me of exactly how you described your mom. She is a narcissist and impossible to deal with. She has wronged and hurt so many of our family members and damaged relationships, and it is heartbreaking. Is it bad to wish or hope that she gets her karma? I'm conflicted because I don't ever want to wish anything bad on anyone, but I feel like if she gets her karma, maybe it would be a wake up call for her wrongdoings, at least enough to try and mend the relationships. I feel like the only way the relationships can be mended in our family situation is if she hits rock bottom, so to speak. Is it bad karma for oneself to hope someone gets their karma? I feel like these are silly questions, but it is very heavy on my heart and I would love to get both of your opinions on it. Okay, I have a lot of opinions on this. Um, I don't think it's a good thing to wish karma on anyone, but it is incredibly human. And so I just want to give yourself permission to have those feelings. I mean, everyone has felt that, and we get you, right? But something I've learned from being raised by a narcissist is this: they don't change. They can hit rock bottom. You can hit them with the bottom of a rock. Let me tell you, they don't change. They just don't. She's not going to have a wake up call. She's not going to see how she's wronged anyone. She's just you're never going to get that closure piece and validation, in my opinion, in my experience, in all the plethora of books on narcissists I have read. I don't think they change. I think what this weighing on your heart, I think it's important for you to take that and think, okay, how can I strengthen myself? How can I strengthen my boundaries? How can I heal from the pain she has caused to the family? So I think rather than focusing on her and hoping she gets her karma or hoping she changes or hoping she says an apology that everyone needs to hear, put the spotlight back on you. And a couple of things that have helped me a lot with what I was dealing with my mom and her narcissism. I always described her as a runaway bus, right? Like she was always going to say something hurtful. It was just who she was. And I felt as though my job wasn't to stop the bus. My job wasn't to heal the bus. My job wasn't to pull the brakes on the bus. My job was to get the hell out of the way of the bus. So it was to focus on myself by setting those boundaries and just avoiding that conflict and drama. What do you think, Denise?
That's a whole lot. It's also about the repetitive nature because I think when a pattern or behavior repeats over and over and over, that can be indicative of a karmic reaction, but it can also be indicative of what am I doing? Am I doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results from someone that might not have the capacity to come at this from a different direction? So it goes back to what you're saying about, your if you're with a narcissist, they're probably pretty ingrained in the way, and they don't think it's them. They don't know. This is also work that can continue after someone is in spirit. And you may get a different perspective. You may have a different relationship. You may start to realize some other parts to the puzzle that you're not able to see now. And I'm in no way taking the guilt or the blame or the shame or fill in the blank off of the person who is treating people with malice or discontent or anger. But what we can do is we can focus on ourselves and are we helping to repeat the pattern? Because I think that can be equally a strong part of karmic work as well, is the repetition factor.
Yeah, but I do think it's important to study narcissists because once you study what a narcissist is and how they act, it really is like unmasking them and it makes it almost comical to watch them do what they do. The gray rock technique, I think, is the best way of dealing with them, where you just have no reaction because they don't know what to do with that. And so again, I just think it's focusing on on yourself is the best way to deal with this.
I agree. And I
I
do
don't,
agree
do you
with,
think narcissists change?
uh, I, I would like I would like to think that they do. I haven't seen that experience. I haven't experienced that yet in my own personal life. I
Yeah, I
would
have.
like to think that there is a glimmer, that there's something that could be, maybe it depends on the level of narcissism and how, remember when we were talking about can you have self-worth in certain areas of your life but not in others, or self-love in certain areas of your life but not in others? I wonder if it's the same idea with the narcissism, that they may be able to make strides in one aspect of their life of how they treat others or specific people, but not as a general overall change or shift.
Oh, that's a really good point. And you're right, narcissism is a spectrum.
Yeah.
But I think if she's caused this much pain to so many family members, I don't know.
I 100% agree with you saying when we wish ill will on someone, we're inviting that to come back on us tenfold.
Yeah, life is a boomerang.
Right.
So you don't want to put that out there. And I feel like wishing a narcissist to change is like owning a Honda and wishing it was a Toyota and then getting mad at God for not answering your prayer. Do you know what I mean? Like you just need to get a different car. I'm not saying she needs to get a different sister, but I think she needs to get a different perspective on how she deals with her sister.
Yes. And they're not silly questions at all, because I think all of us have
No.
had that, especially as empaths or dealing with people who are narcissists or knowing someone else. This is so common. And when
Yeah.
you look at all of the books, and we've had countless shows on energy vampires and narcissists and controlling behavior, and it is definitely a personality type.
Yeah, and sometimes just researching all of that. So, listener, you might want to look into histrionic personality or borderline personality disorder, which often goes hand in hand with narcissism, and get some of the tools on that. I love Susan Ford's work on narcissism, but there's a lot of good books out there.
Yes. Yes. And please know that we're sending you good juju, that you can deflect some of this so you're not constantly get in that bombardment barrage of negativity that may be coming your way. That
Amen.
wears you down.
It does.
Our next one says, I've been on my spiritual journey for a couple of years now, and within learning about all of the ways I can use my intuition professionally, I took the route of Reiki. I got my level 2 attunement in the beginning of the year and was practicing on my wife. Like most of us, I struggled with doubting my own abilities and the energy I was feeling. I found myself hesitating and being fearful to try on other people. Even though my family and friends were open to it, I finally made the decision to commit my Friday nights to doing Reiki on my family and friends so I could get practice and gain the confidence to do it professionally. One family friend suffered a stroke and lost almost all of the movement in her right arm. I knew Spirit wanted me to practice on her because she was open to any type of healing, and what a better person to practice on than someone who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. I explained that Reiki doesn't fix all of our problems and it doesn't guarantee that she'll get full movement back in her arm, but Reiki is powerful, so any improvement is great, and she'll benefit from it regardless. We did our first session together, and almost immediately she said the pain in her right shoulder, which had been consistent since the stroke, was already gone. I was pretty shocked and definitely felt a little doubt fill in my mind, but I know that Reiki works, so I had to remind myself to not be surprised when it truly does help people. I told her I'd like to do it every week and every other if we could, so we did 2 sessions in 2 weeks. Before her second session, she told me she was able to lift her right arm to about her belly button, which is a little further than she could the week before. She also was able to carry a laundry basket, which she had been unable to do before. This gave me so much validation and confidence. I just recently followed up with her after our second session last week, and she's able to lift her arm to the middle of her chest. The point of this is to remind those that are struggling with doubting themselves that you must take the leap. I knew that if I could help my family friend with Reiki, this would give me confidence and validation, along with credibility for when I do it professionally and charge people. It's incredible to see her progress because I've listened to countless stories of Reiki causing medical miracles. I guess I just never envisioned myself being the one to facilitate it. I'm going to continue practicing and working on trusting the process and the information I receive throughout. I feel that sometimes we hear stories from those who have lots of experience, but I'm still on this journey of not doubting myself. I'm still getting comfortable saying things like, oh, I felt my grandfather during that session without feeling crazy. I'm working on truly stepping into my spirituality and letting myself embrace it completely. Just wanted to share in case anyone else out there needs motivation to jump through the fear. Well, thank you so very, very much for sharing this because it is a sense of hope. And also, you can tell the objectivity that this person writes with, that they might have gone into it with a little skepticism or wanting a little more proof. But when you start to see physical proof that this is happening with no, I, I, I just love it. I absolutely love it because there are people I'm sure who'd say, oh, it's a time factor and range of motion and PT, if there's been involved, is making the difference. And that well could be, but it could also very much be that power of belief that this energy is helping me heal and grow and get back on track with my health and wellness.
Yes, I love that too. And I love the message of just doing it anyway, doing it even if you're fearful, even if you feel silly, even if you're doubting yourself, and just trusting that you are just the medium for this healing energy. That's so hard to do and so beautiful to do. And then to see the validation of it in this family friend that this listener's been helping, that's beautiful and a great reminder that I think we all need to hear. I always like to think about, okay, picture your body and just imagine that it has a couple of potholes. You know, you've been through some stuff in your life. You got some digs in your aura and there's some potholes there. When you get Reiki or any healing modality, I feel like it just fills those potholes. So when you give someone Reiki, it might heal them emotionally. It might heal them physically. It might heal them spiritually. You don't know because you're not in charge of it. You're just the medium, the facilitator, the delivery person for the healing energy. And that's how I like to look at it so that my expectation of what I'm giving to someone is removed. Because I always have those expectations too, and I always doubt myself. And if you get, there's a Reiki magazine, and it's called the Reiki Magazine. Yeah, I think you could still get it at Barnes and Noble. You can read it at reiki.org. But in the beginning, they have all these like listener stories. And when I first got Reiki today's, I swear every other month there would be, and there's always stories like, oh, my plant was almost dying and I gave it Reiki and the plant came back to life. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can see that. But there were also so many stories of people driving and they forgot to charge their phone. So they would give Reiki to their phone and they would watch the battery grow. And I was like, no shit. So I was so excited and I had really good experiences passing on Reiki. So my phone's dying one day and I'm like, no problem. And I do all the symbols into my hand and I tap them in and I hold the phone. Nope, the battery just stayed as dead as a doornail. And I was filled with so much doubt. So I only bring that story up to remind everyone that I think we have to learn to live with the doubt, no matter what
Yes.
it is we're doing. It's going to come and go and it's going to ebb and flow. You know what I mean?
And it's a great reminder that it isn't us. We're the hand puppet, the messenger, the conduit. I don't want that level of responsibility. Do you?
No, no, thank you. But it is really cool when you work with healing energy because sometimes you'll put your hands on, usually when you do Reiki, your hands heat up. And to feel that heat coursing through your body is pretty amazing. And you can't make that up. But sometimes I put especially if someone has a headache, and my hands will get icy cold.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's just so neat to just step back from it and not be connected to the outcome, invested in the outcome and just be an observer of what you're doing. It's a really cool journey. All right, our next one says, in last week's episode, you discussed the topic of free will. The German medium and author Varda Hasselmann channeled a message about our free will. Believe it or not, but she channeled that we only have about 30% free will, and we don't even use this full potential. The rest is soul plan and destiny. We are perfectly guided through our lives and back on the path our soul planned before this incarnation. Wow, 30%. I'd like to think it's like 50-50, but okay. What do I know? I don't channel any higher deities or beings. 30%, I mean, I guess 30%, I'd like to get a sweater on sale 30% off. I guess we can't discount all that. That doesn't seem like a lot of free will, though, Denise. Help me out here. Do you think it is?
No, and it is there any okay, skeptic. I think healthy skepticism is very important in all of this work. That where did that medium bring that information through from? Just as a generic channeled message? Is it a team that she or he works with? Is it, I mean, I think that there's all those things need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, and then it's so complicated because if we are able to create our soul plan before we come here, isn't that all free will?
Very good point.
And then what we do when we get here, is that just the free will in play? I
Or
don't
the
know,
interference of someone else's free will.
but that's right. Ugh. Debating free will and destiny, I don't know. That's a hard one. But either way, we do have free will, whether it's 30%, 50%, or 100%. We do. And I think it's very, very important to think about the one thing this medium and author said, that we don't use this full potential. I think we all need to think about that.
Okay, this is a random thought about this, but 30% is roughly a third. 33.3% would be a third of 100. So it's pretty close. And I'm thinking of all the Holy Trinity, the mind, body, spirit, is the free
Oh,
will one of those components?
oh, that's a good one. What would be the third? So if we have free will, destiny, oh, and then maybe fate.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. That's interesting.
And I wonder if they ebb and flow or fluctuate or okay, destiny's out in front and now it pulls back and now we're more in a fate mode of our life and now, oh nope, now we're more in free will because you're making very strong choices about moving something in a new direction that may feel like it was predestined to happen, but you just can't follow through on it at this point in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is where trust comes in.
Yeah.
I'm still having fun with that whole thing I've been playing with of just pretending that life is a game and I can make every day what I want it to be, within reason. I'm still having a lot of fun with that. And it does remind me that we really don't use all of our free will. We tend to just kind of go along with the day. So if you wake up and you look at your phone and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 7 o'clock and I completely forgot I have to be at that meeting at 8 o'clock. Damn it, this day's already off to a bad start. And we just dive into that energy and intent, you're going to have a rushy, stressful, awful day. But if you look at your clock and go, oh my gosh, all right, so I might be late for this meeting, but you know what? If life's a game, I'm going to magically get there on time and the meeting is going to go so smoothly and my way. And I'm going to be heard and validated in the points I bring to that meeting. And after that, I'm going to have lunch with my friend. And, if you just kind of move through it that way, it really does change everything.
And it does remind you that we're not in control of anything. And so many of us hang on so tight to try to stay in control.
Well, we're in control of how we respond.
True, true. But
And I
things
think
are
we
going
need
to
to
happen.
that. Yeah, things are going to happen. Yeah. I mean, and life isn't, life isn't meant to be all fairy tales and rainbows, but it's also not meant to be all drama and chaos either. And I think
No,
we can control the mood and the energy of that and how we respond to what life hands us, gifts us, or throws at us.
I agree. There's always a choice involved of how we're
Mhm.
choosing to react or what we're bringing to the table or what we want to step away from. We're consciously making a choice. This is one of those topics that we could spin for a long, long time on this. But I think it's interesting, and I will look up that person on the 30% because that maybe there's something else there that we'll say, oh, that really does resonate with me.
I just watched a good movie on Netflix that doesn't really dive into this topic, but I don't know why it's making me think of it. It's with Anthony Hopkins and oh gosh, the guy from Downton Abbey. But it's about Dr. Freud and C.S. Lewis. And they meet to discuss with their super intelligent minds how they so differently view life because obviously Dr. Freud, does not believe in God or an afterlife, and C.S. Lewis does. And the whole movie is, you know, I mean, some people might think it's boring. I thought it was fascinating. It's just the two of them talking and debating about that. And it just reminds me of how everything in life is how you look at it.
True. And, and that's getting increasingly more important every day is decide how you want to look at it, but don't necessarily blast someone else who may not see it the same way that you do.
Yeah. Life would be so boring if we all saw everything the same way.
Well, we have one more to wrap up, and this is from a longtime listener who mentioned that they had had a mediumship reading and were hoping to connect with someone that they had been able to connect with in the past in a mediumship reading, but unfortunately it didn't happen because the reader said that this person had a huge crowd of ancestors hanging around in the energetic field and that it was just too busy to navigate. The reader suggested I get an energy clearing because they seem to be using me as some kind of a hub without giving me any kind of space. And I do feel that my head clear audience is overstimulated when I sit in quiet. They're not earthbound, but they have a lot of unresolved trauma and suffering. I'm wondering if you've seen this kind of ancestral behavior before and what kind of protection you would suggest to carry out. I'm also wondering if the fact that I'm adopted and know only a total of three non biological people in my family on the other side plays a role in this. Much appreciated for hearing my thoughts. Any kind of advice would be very much welcome. I do think being adopted, if you don't know your birth family or your direct lineage, could be a part of it, as far as not knowing quite who you're connecting with or why. There are mediums who can connect with extended family members who may not be the family that raised you. So it's a little bit more tricky because you're not going to get as much evidence often as someone may be able to give if their their grandmother was very dear in their life, but there may not be a biological connection. But because that person was present in their life, they know them, they know their idiosyncrasies, they know their traits. Whereas someone that may be biological, if you don't know them, it's really hard to validate that. I don't, I've never had this experience where there was a crowd of ancestors blocking the way. I've
You
had,
know why? I gotta interrupt you, Denise. I'm sorry. And you
oh,
could cut
please,
this because I'm gonna be rude and obnoxious, but I call bullshit on this reader and and I need to tell everyone that Denise is so humble. She's not reading the full email. This listener had a reading from Denise. Denise perfectly brought through this person. And then the listener goes to a different medium who can't bring through that person and suddenly tells this person, oh, that your people are dealing with unresolved trauma on the other side and you need to get I think this is a medium, quote unquote, who couldn't make a connection and is using all these excuses. And that makes me really mad.
I can't disagree with you.
I'm sorry, but like you're such a good medium. You're so ethical. You won't even pat yourself on the back, on a show like this. So I just felt like I had to do it. If you were able to bring through this person and then she goes to someone else and I mean, come on, that's not unresolved trauma and suffering. If any mediums are out there listening, if you can't make a connection, that's fine. It happens. We all have good days and bad days. And sometimes the people on the other side, I don't know, the energy just doesn't jive with yours. That's all fine. But don't blame the sitter and then
That,
make the sitter so worried. Oh, well, I do get overstimulated in my head. Who doesn't?
yeah, yeah, you're right. You're very right. This is why so many of us are drawn to the ancestral healing aspect right now, is there is a lot of unresolved trauma and suffering that has been passed down. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you look back historically, there were not the cultural or societal supports in place for people to deal with certain topics or certain experiences, so it got passed down. I don't think that it was done maliciously. I don't think it was done. I think often it was just because of the times, because of and I shared this before and I loved this meme. It cracks me up every damn time. Is there, the picture where they're showing, oh, world wars and 14 children and death of all the things, horrible, horrible things, but we forgive you. That I forgive you, saying that to your ancestors when holy shit, they went through a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for the kind words about my work. I do appreciate that. And you're right, it is very uncomfortable for me to say that. So
I
uh,
know, but you need to because we need more of you. And I just don't like it when people put it on the sitter's shoulders and now she's carrying this.
right. And it
Or he. I
also
don't know who wrote it.
right, but it's I I don't usually have the experience where someone in spirit will step forward with that type of a message. It's usually with love, with gratitude, with respect, with awe that they're able to make a connection with a future generation that's still here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think if you're adopted and you didn't know your biological family, it can be harder only because you can't validate a lot of the stuff they're going to talk about because you might not have known them. But love is love, you know? And so that should not hinder a reading. I just think that this person needs to go back to Denise and not worry about their loved ones on the other side.
Well, thank you. But I also think that this is a great, when you brought up if you're a practicing medium or you're learning to be a medium, this is where it comes in to connect with essence, not just evidence message. If you're bringing through who they are, what they felt. And the reason I'm bringing this up is recently I did a very emotional connection for someone, and it was for it was for a child who was not able to make it onto the planet fully. And I was very, very anxious and very worried that I wouldn't be able to make a connection. And the energy, because that soul didn't have life experience with the family that was asking me to make the connection. So, but what came through beautifully was the soul light, the essence, the energy of love. So I think personally that mediumship is evolving in a new direction.
I do too. And I hope that the ethics of mediumship continue to evolve because if you're not able to bring through someone's loved ones, no matter what the reason is, I think as an ethical medium, you need to take the onus and just say, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'm not able to make a connection for you today. It's not you, it's me. Here are 3 other mediums you could try, or we could try again in a couple of months. But
Right.
never ever leave the sitter feeling insecure about the state of their loved ones on the other side.
And this is not saying it from a place of judgment, but if there are a crowd of energies that have come in around that person, personally, I think it's up to the medium to be able to separate them out and deal with them one-on-one, one at a time. Say, okay, yes, you've got a whole crowd, but all right, let's focus on this energy, make a stronger link, and bring through that one. Visualize them making a line, ask them to come in one at a time. Your this you and I have taught this over and over and over. You need to be in control of it, not have it in control of you.
Exactly. And you've got to learn that. And I always rely on my guides to help with that. And what I do is I start with the strongest energy, you know?
Right.
It's the same way when I was teaching. Like if I had a class clown in the classroom, I would be like, all right, here, you have 5 minutes, get it all out of your system so I can teach, you know? And same thing if I'm doing a reading and there's a crowd of energies, one's always going to be most vocal and loud, and I let them get their stuff through first. And then usually the quieter ones will then step forward. But you have to set the boundary for what it means to work with you for not only your clients, but your loved ones on the other side as well.
Right. And I do hope that this person did not internalize it, that they did something wrong or that they weren't clear enough, that they weren't open to letting their loved ones come in. Because there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, did I do something wrong? Or why aren't my people showing up? Or don't they love me anymore? That's a terrible feeling.
Yeah. And it's not even remotely true.
No, no.
We need to end on a more positive note.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So what is that positive note?
That positive note is, I think it's important to remember that we are here under free will, whether that's 30% or 100%, I don't know anymore, but we are here under free will. And we have the choice of how we respond and react to everything that happens to us, whether it's a medium who's having a wonky off day, or whether it's a narcissistic sister, or whether it's passing on Reiki healing energy and feeling amazing about that. Whatever it is that happens to you, you have the free will to respond to it the way you choose to. And that is what I think is so important in life, is focusing on making the best, healthiest, highest choices for our spiritual growth. And
Oh, see,
I hope that's what people get from this time together.
that was a positive note. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And remember, if you want to send in a question for our August Community Connections show, you can email us enlightenedempaths@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page. Just search Enlightened Empaths. You can find out about our work at Denise's website is thegratefulmessenger.com, and mine is samanthafay.com. Have a beautiful week. Remember to show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care.